Hello and welcome to the second season, second episode of Take Me Back, the interviews. This year we're doing something really delightful, which is to partner with the Rural Resource Commission. I always find that hard to say.
It's a tongue twister.
And the representative here today, Franni Hoag, is my partner in this effort. And I am absolutely delighted to welcome an old friend of 40 years, believe it or not.
At least.
Yeah. And I know him well because two of his three children were in the same classes as two of my three children. And it's really, I think, a deep bonding relationship when you know someone as a parent who runs, the play dates, who welcomes my child for music lessons. Right. That's your daughter.
Right.
Your wife.
My wife, yeah.
Gave him. So anyway, welcome, Spark.
Hi.
Sparky Potter, everybody. And you're going to start, right, Franni?
I am going to start. So Sparky, we know each other a little bit. You are my landlord. I have the
Peggy's the landlord.
Peggy's the landlord, yes, your wife Peggy.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious to hear a little bit more about what drew you to the Valley. I have a feeling that skiing might have been a big part of that. And I'm also curious in hearing a bit about what in particular kept you here.
Two big questions.
Yes.
First one's easy. Skiing. It's very simple. The ski thing, the ski bum thing. Ski bumming at the time was actually, I looked at it in the distance and thought, this could be great. And because there's a lot of mystique about it. There's a lot of cool movies that were done about ski bums in America. And so I was intrigued. And I said, well, let's give this a shot. It was pretty easy because I had a free place to stay up on Prickly Mountain, one of David Seller's early buildings. And so when I got out of college, I went directly to Aspen. And I lived in Aspen as a ski bum for about 6 months, and then we had to kind of drive around in a pit in my buddy's van because the place we were living got rented out for $100 a day. We were paying $9 a day or something, or $9 a week, and so we drove around for a bit, and we were sleeping underneath bunk beds, and we were like really desperate for places to stay. Couldn't find them, so we drove back here. Said, Bobo, I got a free place to stay in Vermont. So Bobo and I drove back here, and I haven't left since. Wow. Yeah, so that's how it all began. Very humble beginning, but I was doing ski patrol at St. Lawrence, and so I walked in. It was just like probably might have been February. I walked in, and I went to the ski patrol people and said, you guys need any patrol? And of course they did. And so I got paid $3 a week, or a day rather, $3 a day. I thought that was great.
But you got a ski pass.
Well, I got a ski pass. I got all the bennies. I got food and friends, and I got a ride because I didn't have a car, so I hooked up with these people. And so it was a very humble beginning, but it was a great year. Just
the free place to live. Was that David's structure? I think it was you described to me. There was a little movement involved.
Well, yeah. So basically, it was my fraternity at St. Lawrence had rented it for years. So I went in it as like the house father, the caregiver, whatever. So I went in there just because nobody was there, and I kept it safe. But we also we lived up. Pretty high in the air, so there's these 80-foot tall structures, and you had to be like a rock climber to get up there. All there were was pegs to get to your room, and you got up there. At the time, they were thinking that plywood is structural enough. We don't need to put real structure there. So in the winds, the building would move a couple 3 inches as you were trying to sleep. It was like being on a boat. So it was great. So I got to meet the prickly world early on,
right,
which was very inspiring. So, yeah.
Yes, I can imagine it was. Yeah. So, Franni is relatively new to town, so her questions are going to come at sort of a baseline of information, whereas I've just wondered about a lot of things recently have to do with you.
I have to answer the second part of Franni.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please
Thank
do.
You for coming back around.
Yeah, because so what kept me here? Skiing. No, there was skiing. Pretty early on, the community became impressive, and just the camaraderie within the ski industry both with the locals that lived here as well as the people that moved in like me. It was an intriguing kind of, I guess, thing to go through, which was, they have the locals that were just wondering why they had resort people here, that were just here, versus us that were here by luck or by chance. And so the melting of the farmers and the other people that were here for their reasons, and the ski bums was great to witness. It wasn't always pretty. It was a rocky road.
Yeah.
But that was the beginning of understanding why I wanted to stay here. But as time went on, it just became more and more apparent that this community is so unique and so rock solid. So that was 3/4 of the reason, but the beauty here, that cannot be underestimated, is why you stay. I mean, it's just, just every time you walk out the door, you go, oh, wow, does it get much better? So after traveling a lot, we come back, every time we come back, go, that's as good as any place in the world to live. So that's kept us here as well.
Where did you come from originally?
Wethersfield, Connecticut.
Connecticut.
Mm-hmm. Just below Hartford.
Yeah.
Cool town. It was I think it's a 1620s town, and so it had great Americana in it, and it was also a farming community when I was growing up. So that was great to behold all that, and then all my family was in the insurance business, so I had a chance also to see what it means to live off the land and watch then people go to a city to get their work done.
Right.
So it was a great place to grow up.
Good
friends.
Glad to
They're
hear
still dear friends. Good school system. Great music. It's a musical town. So I was exposed to good music from grammar school on, and that was also another thing that happened here in the Valley was compelling, is how good the music and theater and the building trades and all those things that I liked, that was already prolifically happening. So you weren't alone when you came here with people that also had the similar interest.
Well, my memory is that the first wave of ski bums was 65, because that's when Charlie came. So you would
maybe
have
even earlier than that, I think.
Oh, maybe so.
I think so, yeah.
63, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, somebody had to start that wave. And there's all these people that hiked and skied in the 1930s, the 40s, and 50s. They were really the foundation of the ski world. The ski bumming, that became, trying to figure out how to live in these places and make a living. So hence the bumming word. But I think when I got here, it was already pretty well done. In Bluetooth was, the Bluetooth was the central place for people to remember why they're here and to drink together and to entertain each other. Yeah.
And you came 72?
71.
71.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have a different kind of question. So a year, 2025, Charlie Brown calls me, and Tommy and I spend the winter in Savannah now.
I heard that.
So I'm at my desk in Savannah, and Charlie's calling me.
Yeah.
He's like, "You're not going to believe it. Sparky is retiring." Like, he was so surprised. I don't think he ever thought you would.
Charlie called you about that?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so we had a really interesting conversation, and Charlie's 90 now, right?
I think maybe more, maybe like even 91.
And I'm 71. So he's been around way longer than me. And we just were comparing like anecdotes. And I watched then to see what press was going to come out, because I was sure that was newsworthy. And one of the articles I found was from 7 Days. Now,
Kent Picard.
So this is an interesting thing. So the news that was worth printing was Sparky Potter has made some of Vermont's most iconic signs. And it was focused on the signs, which I'd like to read a little bit about. Over the years, Wood & Wood has produced some of the most iconic graphics on Vermont landscape. The graphics piece is important to me as an artist. Here's Richard Doubleday, a professor. His designs really evoke a sense of place, said Richard, a visiting professor of graphic design at Champlain College. They're not just functional markers. They serve as visual extension of Vermont's identity. How do you feel about that?
Humbled and impressed. Good writing.
Yes, very good writing.
And that was a part of it I never never focused on, never even thought of. But I think that this article was really well done, Ken and Richard. I mean, what they came up with was a whole side of what we were doing that was, I was blindsided by what they said, and I was really humbled by the whole thinking that it means that much to people. So
Yes.
it felt good.
And they cataloged. I mean,
Yeah.
Right, they talk about Ben and Jerry's Vermont Teddy Bear
Yep.
in the 1980 Winter Olympics.
Ah.
I would love to hear a little bit about your journey in Woodenwood Sign Co. And I'm also interested in hearing, was there competition? Were there other Vermont sign makers that you were inspired by or working with?
These are good questions. Let me dissect the last part of that, because there's always competition. But when I first came into this thing, I had no idea. I mean, I didn't even know what the sign business was. Mm-hmm. I just knew that I had an affinity for wood, and I just knew somewhere that the wood was going to keep coming up. So I just started, playing around and doing stuff at home, literally from barn board that I was found free on the side of the road or something, and literally took those pieces and started to wood burn, because my grandmother had given me this kit, and I started to wood burn. I was really imitating album covers, listening to music, getting stoned, and just seeing if I could imitate these things. And it was really fun, and stuff was starting to come out pretty nice. And so that got sold by peg to anybody that would want to buy stuff. Farmer market style stuff. So you just go out and put up a table and sell stuff. And then I got noticed by the people I was working with at Sugarbush, and so that opened me up to this possibility of actually making a kind of an income from this stuff, and that was motivating to know you could actually make an income. But the art component was already there; it was already kind of in me, and so it was really fun to see how you could take a need and then put some sort of art piece to it to maybe make it more fun for the client, for me, and the crew that I was working with. So we would walk away and look and say, well, gee, this has really got more going on than the sign trade up to that point sucked. I mean, pretty much everything I saw out there from a Connecticut standpoint was bad, except for the old signs that was done in Old Weathersfield. So some people had a good style, a good aesthetic that I remember from where I grew up. And then I did a little bit of research and went right back to like the 1600s and 1500s. I started to see, I'm a researcher, so I'd see what did they do. They used these objects because people they couldn't speak, they didn't have a language,
right,
or they couldn't write, so just symbols, right? So that intrigued me. But also I was wondering, could you make art into a sign that would be more memorable than the lettering and more just fun to do? So the Ice House Restaurant was one of my earlier pieces, and that was a test that I did with these really cool guys that have become dear friends. And I said, how about if we do kind of a mural on the outside of your wall? And I'd seen something in Currier and Ives, which was my parents gave me a reference book. So, it was cool. And so it was literally, it was an ice house scene that these guys had done. So I kind of imitated what they had done. And you could call it a ripoff, but it was more like an imitation, because I said we draw it freehand. And we did this thing, and it was a hit because it was so different. So that was good to know. And so I did a whole bunch of signs kind of almost for free, just to try out this concept of having signs in really important places that people could see a different way of doing it. And so that was the first 5 or 6 years was just experimenting to see what traction you could get in the marketplace for stuff that would be, selling something to somebody, but without being ugly and just aesthetically, weird. So
I would like to piggyback on that.
Sure.
So, in the articles I've been reading to prepare, I think it's still 7 days, that in 1968, a law was passed that Vermont would not have billboards.
That was cool. He picked up on that.
And the writer, projects, I think, the idea that you were clever enough, you were crafty enough to say, well, hey, and we all know in town, the business signs have to be very small. Yeah. Were you consciously getting bolder with your experimentation? Like you really moved into sculpture when you did the 3D pieces coming out?
That's a really good question. And I have to give Ken credit, because I didn't think about that. I was kind of unaware of the fact that when you drove from Connecticut into Vermont that you didn't see any billboards. Somebody had to point it out to me. Because when I first moved here, that wasn't on my radar. But now that all these years later, whenever I travel into a state that has billboards, it's just gross. Yeah. It's just awful.
When you travel from New York State, you know you're in
even
Vermont.
Massachusetts.
It's unfortunate that more states haven't picked up on this. But to his credit, opening my eyes to the fact that there was a need that people could not do billboards. So what else do they do? So I never tried to push the size of a sign to be beyond what the regulations were, unless it was just a stupid regulation and just said, you can't do a 6 square foot sign and read it at 40 miles an hour. So you have to do a 16 square foot sign before you can do that. So this is a practical application that I did pay a lot of attention to. But it wasn't a conscientious effort to sort of change the state of Vermont and what people thought when they saw our signs. I think that happened over a long period of time. Just enough people got interested in the way we were doing it. And as far as competition, there was always competition, but I didn't pay any attention to the competition. This is something that I thought would be better to not pay attention to what they're doing and just stay in and outside our own box to do what pleased us and the clients, what they wanted. So, there's plenty of competition, always was. But I think we were unique in doing kind of the hand-carved signs and the art piece. There were some inspirations along the way. There was a guy in southern Vermont, actually more like Woodstock area, who came here before I did. I think his last name was Burns. He was good. And there was a couple of people in Cape Cod that I thought were good too. We were kind of on a similar wavelength.
Right.
So there was maybe 4 of us that kind of in New England started this hand-carved sign thing. Never really talked to each other. It just happened that way. But I do have a lot of respect for those other people that were doing very similar things. I think probably the art component I paid more attention to because it was just more joyful for us doing the work. It was just really fun to see how that can work out. And the sculptural piece, yes, that I will take credit for going after the sculpture thing because I grew up in Wethersfield and grew up with my best friend. His father was a mason from Sicily, so I got exposed to cool masonry early on, and I kind of took it to boulders into big pieces of stone because I thought they could have their own look and their own mystique about them. So as often as possible, I would try to convince the client to do something beyond the sign, which would be the structure. Structure is plural, landscaping, that component. The landscaping was actually early on because my grandmother was a great landscaper.
Yeah, wow.
So, and I myself wasn't, but I would hire people that were in the landscaping business to help out.
Right.
And so some of my favorite pieces involve the whole landscape. And so it wasn't just one dimensional. So the sign really becomes a small component to the finished piece when you add the structure to it. And then the regulations did not apply to structure. You could do whatever you wanted with structures in most towns.
That's crafty.
Most towns USA, they'll focus on just the square footage of the sign face, but the rest of it, have at it. So we did.
So I'm just going to take a break for a second to tell viewers that this episode will eventually be repackaged as audio for radio. So I'm taking a little minute to say we are here with Sparky Potter, who owned Wood and Wood for many, many years and is not exactly retired. I'm sure he's very, very active still. But Spark, so you want to do another question?
Absolutely. Sparky, you were talking a little bit about some of your inspirations and influences, and from reading the 7 Days article and for being somewhat familiar with some of your properties or Peggy's properties, I know that Tolkien has heavily influenced your work, and I'd love to hear a little bit about how he shows up or some of his storylines or themes show up in the work that you do.
How much time do you have? No, okay. So Tolkien, I started reading it probably before I got out of St. Lawrence. I think in my senior year, somebody put this book in my possession, so I started reading it. And just from the get-go, realized, okay, this is a different way to look at life. And so I took it as a Bible. I looked at it and said, okay, the Holy Bible goes this way, I go this way. And I read it, a whole bunch of times. But the cool part about it is that as I was reading, for the first time I can recall, I was getting images in my head about what to draw. So if I heard them or read the whole statement about describing this place in the woods and this home, blah blah blah, and then I would try to sketch it. And I wasn't very good at sketching at the time, so I'd do these cryptic sketches. And Peg would look at this and go, "Well, what's this?" And, well, I'm trying to remember when Goldberry was serving all these people and trying to create that table. And so, I kept at it, and then we started to realize, well, we're going to build a house together. But now she was reading it as well, so we're both reading the trilogy, and so we were designing our own house because after seeing anything at Prickly, you go, well, design build. I mean, if they did it, we can do it. So we just started, and actually I was doing watercolor paintings of what it could look like. That was fun. And we went to that it was completely inspired by the medieval world and what Tolkien was poking at. So I did this watercolor painting of what we thought our house could look like, and I brought it into the bank. It was funny because a guy named Carl Garbolotti, and walking in, he goes, "Well, we would like to get a loan." And he goes, "Okay, well, for what?" And I just showed him this thing. He goes, "Can you do that?" I said, "Yeah, I think I can." And he goes, "Well, what experience do you have?" I said, "Well, I built a couple post and beam signs." He goes, "Do you have any plans for this?" I said, "Yeah, this is our plan." He goes, "No, come back when you've had somebody do a drawing." It wasn't even a blueprint. It was more like, give me some sketches of some sizes and some construction details. So we hired a guy he was our age. He was probably a ski buddy, and we just had a couple of beers together. So he did enough of a drawing to go back to him. So what I realized is that the concept was strong enough. The execution had to be there. And so that's what got me into thinking, okay, well, our house can be the experiment for the Tolkien world and for how we want to, work that into our property. So our house, one day we'll have you up to our house, and it's like you can walk and you can answer your own question. But it first evoked through our house and what we did to try to make it, become that Tolkien-esque thing. And it actually came out pretty well.
It did. Now, I have a question. I've been thinking about this for years. I had a friend buy a house, I don't know, maybe a decade ago. And I went to see it. And I looked at the front door and I said, "Did Sparky do that?"
Oh, where was this?
I'll tell you later. I don't like to name people without their permission.
Sure.
I'll tell you who it is.
Yeah.
And another building where on the facade, the detail, I said, "Sparky must have done this." Now, working on other projects outside your house, would that have been after your house was done or before, while you were working on your signature look?
Oh, I think it was after.
Yeah.
Because I really, when I got out of college and started to do this, I didn't even own a tool, so I had to learn a little bit on my own about that. So I did think though that if I go through all those years of schooling and if I can't teach myself how to do something has not worked out well. And so I definitely took it upon myself to get skillful at a few things early on. But I was brave enough, I guess brave is not the right word, but I was thinking there's really nothing that we can't attempt to do as a designer.
Right.
So so the answer would be yes, I would try to do that. And oftentimes I design stuff, realize, well, I'm not the one that's going to help you execute this. So let's get an architect involved. Let's get somebody else involved that has that skill set. But here's the concept. So the concept is I think the germination point of an idea starts with that little pebble right there and try to design something out of that evolves into something real. And it's a magical process to watch how that happens. So no matter who you're talking about, I would have been happy to try to take it to the concept level. So it's probably a good chance that I did do some of those things. We did do a lot of doors. And so we were not a sign builder. In the beginning, I was basically building furniture and tables and doors and beds. So the sign piece came a couple years after I started doing this because there was income in it.
Right.
And the rest of it was just, was not necessarily income. It was a lot of giving. So I think that I to this day, I'll attempt to do anything that requires design, inside, outside, doesn't matter where. And signs are just a teeny little part of that expansion of what you think you can do.
I always have to embarrass both Potters because my son Jonathan is an artist and a director and a showrunner. And when he was interviewed, he said, well, I grew up in a town where I was told you can be an artist. You are allowed to be an artist. And that was not the case where we came from in New Jersey. And I have many stories about how they both supported this little boy, you know, and he had the thick glasses. He was kind of a nerd. All he wanted to do was be by himself and work on his art. And I thank you for that. I thank you for that so much.
You know, you're welcome. If it rubs off.
It does. And you're confident because I can see that you were going to make it happen. You're going to find a way to support your family, to stay in the valley, and you got creative. No surprise.
Well, there's a DNA thing going on too. I got to bring that up because it's not for nothing that we all come from something, and it usually skips to your grandparents and beyond that. Man, it's pretty powerful stuff, and we're all living through that DNA piece. It kind of makes things ooze out of you. So the art piece was definitely that. After a while, I realized, you know, I tried all these other jobs and I think, you know, I can't not get rid of this sense of there's something in my gut that has to sort of get out. It's not like a horror show or anything. It's just there. It just has to keep moving on. And I'm sure John's got the same thing. You just have to, you know, they call them, I don't know, you're either a maker or you're not. So, but once you start, you're like a beaver. You just can't stop doing it.
Right.
And I'm sure John's the same
Very
way.
much so.
Once it's there, and you have to. So I just said, okay, am I going to go upriver where I don't know how to do stuff and doesn't come naturally, or do I go take the flow of the river and go down the river and follow it? So I took that path.
Well, so I'm revisiting now the big news that you were retiring. And the question I wanted to ask, it's on my list, but I don't even need to look for it.
Uh-oh.
I don't remember you only as a sign maker at all. I mean, you were so important to various aspects of the community that I wonder, would you say that's your road sign? That's who you are?
Yeah. What kind of sign? Road sign?
Yeah, right. Like, is that the big
Be more
one?
specific.
But you were such an involved father.
Yeah.
You were an involved community member. I mean, with the school, you and Peck.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's more equal than you were just a sign maker.
Yeah, I think that perspective came with the territory. So because I really, I think they were not one-dimensional creatures. And so the sport piece of it, the activity of being an athlete was big before I even met Peg. Right. So that part is, you know, that's part of the day, you know, every day. So I have to budget time for that. But the family, as soon as you have a family, just, damn.
Not everybody does.
Well, yeah, but when it does happen, you know, then you're compelled. Right. And I'm actually watching my daughter Charlotte. She kind of put her own personal art aside to teach art to not just her kids but all the other kids.
Oh, wonderful!
And so we did the same thing. So I remember at the Facein school level that we have like 20 kids come to our shop. What could go wrong? You know, you had chisels and all kinds to make birthday or Christmas gifts. You know, so we'd and the school would allow this to happen. 2 or 3 grades of kids would show up at our place, and we'd figure out how to get them all out of a few hours out with a sign for their families, and that was great fun. So that was a big eye opener to how you can kind of involve people around you to do similar things. Now what I've learned is that all you really have to do is create spaces. Leave things out for people of all ages. Whether it has to be tools or instruments or whatever, if you can create a space and leave things on the table, you know, writing utensils, you know, brushes and stuff, they will do most of the work. I just now help to start the concept. You know, can you guys draw this mug? Can you draw this mug and decorate that mug? And I just put my hands up and walk away and realize, wow, all you have to do is give them the spark of a concept and know that you can do it.
Right.
Yeah. So, and we watched the same thing happen with music. So, music was, you know, so sports, music, creating art, eating good food. That's kind of the way our days still go. But it was really, watching the leaving instruments out. This goes back to Peg when she was teaching piano. There was trumpets and French horns and trombones and lutes and stuff like that. They were just left out because we were lazy and didn't put them away. And the kids would start, rootin' tootin'. And so I still do that. I still, in the rooms that we're in, I'll just leave stuff out on purpose and just see what happens with the grandkids. It's just cool to watch.
Before Franni asks another question, I just want for the viewers a quick anecdote. Every school, elementary school here in the Valley, has a ski day. And the parents become very involved because I'm Mehuron, and my husband owned Mehurons. I became the cocoa and cookie lady, right? So I'd get there and set up, and the kids all got to have something to eat, little snack. And Sparky and Bobby Welter, this is where everybody wanted to go. Because their groups were the really challenging groups. So especially the boys, my sons, Bruce especially, would be like, someday I'm going to be in Sparky's group.
They were
had a
good.
blast.
Oh, that was fun. That was really that was a great time. You can be sure every Thursday you're going to just get your whole brain and body gets refreshed and into a whole new space because you've met these kids. The most fun was not skiing with my kids, but skiing with other kids and meeting other family members and seeing to this day how that works, to have these people become your friends for life, even though they're 20 years younger than you. I'll give you a little side story. We were doing a project in Jackson Hole in the middle of COVID, and we couldn't. It was this big project, and we're trying to make stuff in Vermont and ship it out to Vail and other places, and so. In order to get our stuff, this actually knows at Jackson Hole, big hotel, but we couldn't. Our people, we couldn't send them out there, so we ended up. I called the people who had moved skiers that I taught skiing to, who ended up moving out to Jackson Hole. There's like 4 or 5 of them, and hooked up with them, and they became our installers. Saved the day. Because of the memory of what we've been through together out there, and they completely saved the day of getting this stuff up on time and blah blah blah. And it was like, when I came back, I was going to do an article for the paper, and I think I just spaced it out. So this is that article. For you know who you are. The people who I instructed, and they then instructed me, showed me how it can be done on the other side. So
just in case any viewer is wondering, the wonderful part of the programs that the schools create is that every child has the chance to be part of it.
Right, and it does not just skiing. It can be snowboarding. It can be at one point they also had ice skating at the stadium, right? And now they're doing cross country skiing. So but it's a really cool free program. I don't know where else this is done.
I think it's so bonding because to some extent the Valley is still the land of the haves and the have-nots. I'm thinking of multiple kids that were from farm families, and they were made sure they could have equipment. They could, like maybe their parents didn't grow up skiing, although a lot of farmers here did grow up skiing. The children bonded in a team-building kind of way. That was one of the many perks, I think.
Oh, that's true. So they had those, 4 years or so together of doing that, when they could actually maybe 5 years. At high school, it disappeared. It didn't continue on. But this was a unique thing. I will also say that the at that young level, the amount of art and music that they're exposed to in the grammar schools was just unbelievable, considering what many places in America don't give you that kind of exposure. But somehow the parents and the teachers said this has got to happen. So the art instruction, the music, and the time the kids were on stage was unparalleled. They went on stage 4 or 5 times every year, with their parents showing up and that whole
did plays,
and to musicals and singing things, and it was that explains a lot about. There's certain people lots of people who come to the Valley, who are now out in the world doing very notable stuff. And I think it's that it wasn't just the parents, it was the community that gave them this opportunity to get that kind of exposure.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
We were very fortunate.
Yeah.
Cool. What would you like to ask?
So, maybe about a month or two ago, you invited me to a very special event at the Big Picture Theater that shared some of your and Peggy's famous slideshows with the community. And part of those slideshows showcased a little bit of the ski bum culture that you spoke about earlier. And I'd love to hear a little bit about how the ski bum culture influenced the slideshows, the journey to producing these really amazing slideshows with amazing music and visuals. And I would just love to hear a little bit more about that time in your lives.
I'm so glad you guys made it down to that.
It was awesome.
It's hard to explain, you know. So I'm really glad that you saw and felt it for yourself, because it's like, it's hard to talk about it and get the words out correctly. But it was easy to just photograph it, because every image is going to tell its own story. So it wasn't that hard to put it together. It took Charlie Brown to have he had this pub that he said, I got to do something different here. I want to get this out to the world, that we can take pictures of each other, make fun of each other. It was called the Academy Awards or something, the Valley Academy Awards. So everybody got roasted. I was reminded that there was one of the more eloquent prizes you get is a cup full of shit. So you got the shit award, a cup full of shit award or something.
I don't want to ask what kind.
Yeah, I didn't remember. But this guy said, yeah, I think I won that award.
Yeah.
So anyway, it started tongue in cheek. But the act of I'm glad you asked the question, because still life photography has always been a part of my family. But more than anything, I can't not assume the responsibility when I take a picture of doing something with it, someday. Mm-hmm. And so that's my retirement right now. Is I'm finding the ability to take that art form and go after it, because there's no strings attached. It's just me and Peg and my brother Steve and the other people that were Dream Honors. There was pretty big collection of people that liked it. But the way we kind of kept it ski bummy is by the kind of images we took, and just the exposure and recording the events that were going on in our ski bum years. The owners of Sugarbush had the guts to allow these incredible things to happen at their resort. Mm-hmm. March Madness, do you remember March Madness?
Of course.
So that's like, all you had to do is be there and take photographs of what was going on. And that sort of zest for life and just doing stuff that's wacky and memorable was happening anyway. So we just recorded it. But then we did add music to it. That as you picked up on, the music piece of it, which I give full marks to Peg and Rush and all of us. We're putting in the music ideas, but without the music propelling it, it wouldn't be what you liked. Because it was if you think about the music you listen to, it also helps you to associate with the life you're living at that time. Mm. So some of this ski music, people would ski to this music, by, I don't know, whether it be the Beatles or whether it be the Eagles, just stuff that we're listening to music while we're doing all this stuff. So we just capture that. Mm. But it was nice to see that after all these years of incubation, that there was some traction. Yeah. To these shows, and it's really exciting, because we didn't know if it was going to come back alive or not, but still life does come back alive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Spark, can you speak to the 4th of July piece that's fairly recent?
Yeah, because what happened is that once Steve and Peg and I kind of got control of it, we only took 5 of our 30 or 40 shows and did the first 5. And so when we saw that, it was looking pretty good. But once we started doing it, we realized, oh man, it's time to do a new show, because I just didn't want to look back at stuff. I wanted to do something new and different, as did Peg and Steve. Right. And Lee he's a real music scholar. So we were sitting around the table and said, well, I've had this thing about July 4th parade. All the best shots I take in the year always come from that. So let's just expose that over 50 years. And so we didn't realize we just opened Pandora's box. Jesus. And as soon as we did, Peg goes, well, this can't be just your photographs. I know. but it would be easier if we just did my photographs. We just had a little soft show. He goes, no, we got to expand. So he'd call up Bonnie and Hito, just the prickly people, say, would you guys meet with us and just talk about this for a second? So then it was Beefer, and then it was Doug Bergstein. So we went around from family to family, and we would interview them, and we would get their. We were actually trying to get their shots, so it wasn't just one-sided. So next thing you know is that I just closed the door and stopped doing it because it was like we weren't going to get anything done before July 4th, because we wanted to do something before July 4th. And we met with the people at Big Pick early on, and they said, "Yeah, let's do this. It sounds like a good idea." So we, for like a month and a half, we kind of closed ourselves in and went for a new show, and it was remarkably exciting. Because Steve does iMovies, I stopped with slides and projectors. He got really good at iMovie stuff, so we got into it, realized now we can take videos and use those. We can take all these new effects that are available through iMovie. And so we had at it, and it was truly remarkable because we started to see this thing come back alive. And I decided to recommend that we don't have any chronological schedule to it. And I know that bugs a lot of people, but I don't care. Because I from year to year, it's very hard to discern what's going on. It's just, that it's happening. That July 4th is like oozing with love of America. I mean, it just really doesn't miss the mark. And it's like how we can do this day in and day out if we want to. So now we've given them this. Now we have this thing. If you want to see this be in July 4th mood today, we can do it.
Wow.
So I want to drag you into my controversy now, because I'm just finishing a draft for the Valley Reporter in response to a Warren resident who I will quote was in the paper. In a letter to the editor on August 13th. This person said, I objected to the Rotary's choice of theme. It was political, divisive, and inappropriate for the parade, especially a parade commemorating the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And if we think, 65 was when town clerk Emma Ford asked David Sellers and others up on Prickly, do you want to create?
Is that how that happened?
Yes. And
cool.
It changed the tone of the parade immediately.
I'm going to give Carol Lippincott some credit for that, too.
Okay. Yep. So I want your thoughts on that because I may quote you in my article.
Hey, I'd be proud to be in your article. We thought about this a lot because there's when we and I just sat around thinking this has got to happen somehow, some way. There's no guardrails. There's no definition of how do you interpret our July 4th parade. And I do respect this person's opinion, because that's what it's all about. From her standpoint, from where she's sitting.
It's a him.
His, okay, sorry. From where you're sitting, I think that was appropriate for them to say that. On the other hand, there's 10 or 15,000 people that will show up, and they'll all have their own interpretation, which is the cool Pandora's box piece of it, is that everybody you ask about their interpretation of July 4th. It's they're going to all be different, and so that's the cool part. So I should state the theme that was chosen was resistance is revolutionary. So I like the theme. I do too. And the reason why I like it is because of we did one of our banners said I forget how we worded it, but something like we're happy to be in this parade because we can be inappropriate. And that irreverence is the word of the day. Well, our group, the Dr. Butch group, we pride ourselves in being somewhat inappropriate in a public setting. But you have those 6 hours or whatever it is to do that, to just try stuff out. And just go you have to realize this. You're going to get pushback on some stuff, and some stuff people go, never thought of that before. Didn't know you're going to wear 40 people wearing Depends walking down Main Street. Can you explain the Depends relative to the parade, where they came from? Well, Dr. Butch bought 100 pairs of Depends. His idea that maybe we as adults can get back into our Depends and into our
So it's the independence.
Yeah.
Oh, that's correct. Yeah, you're right. Thank you for reminding me.
Peggy
about that.
taught me that.
Independence. Yeah. Anyway, so
Hilarious.
yeah. No, so anyway, I think the idea of resilience is. I think for those of us that are witnessing what's going on in our lifetime, there has to be that going on. We just have to have pushback on stuff. I respect the 250 years as much as anybody does, and I think it's just amazing that we're still intact and that we're going to stay intact because there's enough of us that have to be resilient if it just is rubbing the wrong way for our interpretation of what we think America can and should be. So I think that's.
And I as a person who is not a historian but very interested in local history, I would argue that resistance is part of the Vermont fabric. That I can go way back to John Adams, to before, when we were our own country, because we weren't allowed to be a state. In 1776, we were not a state. And there were all kinds of forces vying for our property. So enough said.
Nice.
Thank you for your take on that.
Good research.
Yeah.
No, I was a history major at college, so and I think about history interpretation, and it's so obscure to me. If you read, one person, you get this. You read another person, so it just opens up that door for your own personal evaluation of how you want to be. I will say that July 4th is a great sort of I guess a landmark, or so it's just a ship in the air. This is July 4th is the time you get a chance to think about it, entertain yourself, come up with some humorous stuff, and rub shoulders with the people that may be completely diametrically opposed. But guess what? You can play frisbee together that day.
Right. That's what we want.
Yeah. So that's where I think it could be. So this vehicle of taking Warren 4th of July, putting it out far and wide is something that could happen and may have a profound effect on other communities. Could be. Who knows?
We'll see.
Yeah. I will say too, though, that we did. I don't know if you saw it, but we did an extra section. We did in a week and a half. We put together this year's July 4th.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
No, I did not.
Yeah, because we did it because we just all went through this amazing rainstorm.
Where is it posted?
It's not posted.
Oh, okay.
But it was at the second show.
All right. Yes.
Because we had the 2 or 3 weeks in between. So we just we came back all the photographs. I went out to all my photographic friends and said, guys, this is unique, and everybody said this is one of the best. Let's just do it. We did an 8-minute show that we tagged on at the end.
Yeah, I did see it.
Yeah. Okay. So
I was there that night, the first night. Yeah.
It was the second night.
I saw the second night.
Oh, the second night.
Yeah, you wouldn't have seen it because it was
Okay.
But you will see. I'll show it to you because
I would love
it was
to
a great.
see
It was
it.
just. And I think each year you can add a little chapter on. That's the thought. Is you can just let it keep oozing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any final question?
Gosh.
I keep checking the time just so we don't run over.
I know, we're getting close. I think, is there any particular, returning to your sign work, is there any particular sign that really stands out in your memory as being particularly representative of the Mad River Valley?
Well, we did sign for the Bluetooth way back when.
Right.
And it was of Tom Bombadil, who was one of the characters, right? And I had him like he had a platter. It had big ass tooth in the platter, and so that goes way back. So I'm sure there's other current ones that I thought for a second, but I'll just hand that one out to you because it wraps up the trilogy. And the idea of having fun with a sign, so it's like it becomes, you giggle, you laugh a little bit, and how this story ends is that sign actually got, if people wanted it.
I've heard it's been stolen at least a few times.
Yeah, but the last one was epic because the guy chainsawed it and he just said he had crushed his truck. It was a big sign, so he was probably drinking, so he chainsaws it and he flops into his truck and destroyed the truck. So it was. So that was
the dramatic,
perfect irony to these kinds of situations. But thanks for the question.
Absolutely.
I have a final question. And this is a quote from 7 Days Again. For more than 50 years, the ski bum turned Waitsfield sign maker has been drawing attention to the names of others, helping them become recognized Vermont institutions. I think that is true. That is my observation after 40 years. And I'd like to know, like, how do you do that? I mean, do you have to develop a relationship with the business before you can then brainstorm
Yep.
your art?
Exactly what you said. Yeah, because I mean, these people are looking for something custom. It's not about me and our crew. It's about us trying to interpret what it is that they need, and then they want from this experience. So I try to make the experience the gem of it before the sign even gets made. It's just the design process is really fun.
But how do you do it? You
Well,
just show up one day and start asking questions?
Well, they show up.
They show up. Okay.
Or it goes both ways. And sometimes I show up, and more often than not, they'll say, "Okay, what can we do together?" And I'll just bug them. I'll just say, "Well, okay, first of all, let's talk to me about your needs, and bring along your sketches or any references you've seen in a magazine or on a video or whatever. Just bring references along to give us something to go on." And the room that we have for having these conversations is it's a candy store for people of graphic intent. There's all kinds of stuff that you can look at. It might look like clutter, but you basically look around and say, well, is there anything in this room that reminds you of stuff? And then I have a portfolio, which is very helpful because the portfolio, once we know what the subject matter is, then we can take and show them things that we've done for other clients. And then to make it unique, it really comes down to them giving us enough stimulation that we can go and do our own research. And of course, our staff is really good, and so it's not just me. When you get to the point for the last 20, 30 years, there's been a group of us that get to understand what the need is, and then we have this bullpen, and we kick around ideas, but it comes down to sketching. The sketching process is imperative for us to know if we're on the right track, because you can sketch fast. If you said, if you told me something right now, I would pull a napkin out and I'll start sketching with you as we're talking, because I find that that's an organic thing. It also is it's like when your phones mate with each other. It's the same thing. If I start drawing and you start doing sketching, it becomes a process that just sparks. I don't need. Sorry about that word. Anyway,
It comes up
it comes up,
organically.
Yeah.
Britta, you want to just, before I close off, do you want to mention what the Rural Resource Commission does?
Yes, I'd love to. So the Rural Resource Commission is one of the commissions that the Mad River Valley Planning District administers. I'm a community planner at the Mad River Valley Planning District. And the Rural Resource Commission works to identify, preserve, and educate the public on different historic properties. And so we work with landowners to get properties on the National Register of Historic Places or the State Register of Historic Places. And we also work with consultants, each other. There's a wealth of knowledge on the Rural Resource Commission to, like I said, educate the public either in some cases signs or written pieces on different properties. But it's a really valuable resource, I think, for the Valley, and I'm really happy to be a part of it. And I think this project is a really exciting way to contribute to the knowledge there.
I talk often about my dream as president of Take Me Back, Inc., which is a 501c3 nonprofit. My final dream, I hope I can get it done before I'm gone, is a digital museum where we gather all of it, the photographs, the videos, written stories. We have several books, entire books. I have 3 of them that I created for Take Me Back that we can just put up there, and students can have access and teachers can have access, and the curious.
Wow.
So that's a big dream. And thank you for helping us walking toward that dream, Sparky Potter.
Oh, I'm so proud of you for doing this. This is huge. Yeah. One day we'll have to take this to the big pick.
Yes, well, next summer, you're giving me an in.
Yeah.
We are trying to create a big event July 8th next summer, because 1777 was the signing of the Constitution of the Republic of Vermont. So they wouldn't let us be a state, so we start our own country.
Wow.
I mean, how badass is that? Can I say that on TV?
It's your program.
So yes, we're moving toward a real, for our community. It's just for us to celebrate that honestly, the 4th of July was not that exciting for me. This anniversary is very exciting to me.
Yeah. Great. Well, keep it up.
Thank
if
you.
you don't have a dream, it's not going to come true.
I know it.
Yeah, great.
Thank you, Sparky. Thank you, Franni.
Thank you both.
Our next episode will be episode 3, season 2. We hope you join us. Thanks for taking us back.